One and all, we are back for Grand Final Showdown, and once again, it is Louis MT versus B. Yeah, this is becoming a bit of a recurring theme. These two clash so often in our weekly formats here in the $9,000 circuit, for good reason. Talented, creative, a whole different approach. I mean, you need to look no further than the draft, where Ottomans ended up being a first pick between these two. Won't be seen just yet in the series, though. Instead, B kicking us off with Xushi in the green, Louis MT on the Malians in the pink. A little bit reminiscent, I think, of the Rus game versus Malians that Louis MT just played against Anatan, where Louis MT was on the Rus. B gonna probably look to be the defensive party here, going into Pro Scouts and then into Castle Age, whereas Louis MT will likely try to take a more offensive route. I think this is a bit more free and more breathing room of an opening for Malians in the Rus matchup, though, because the Scouts in the Rus matchup makes it so difficult to get anything to function. B will be able to sneak around that backside. For a second, I was getting worried for him. Playing on the hardest difficulty and missing a parry. Oh, yeah, we were just talking about Clair Obscur. Clair Obscur is a very interesting game. But, like, okay, so I'm of this opinion. Like, that statement there of, like, you know, playing on the hardest difficulty and missing a parry usually means you're, like, dead. Is that a problem, though? If you're playing on the hardest difficulty, should it not be hard? I'm fine with that. I don't know. I think a lot of games, a lot of video games we play nowadays. Sorry, I'm going. Every time I use the words nowadays, I can feel gray hairs vibrating out and replacing the browns. But I do feel like there are so many games nowadays where the hardest difficulty is not hard. It feels like there's a difficulty curve or two that are missing. It's what you're there for. That's what I love to see. That's what I love to hear. Yeah. I thought that more games in the industry would have learned this from the Souls experience. Just how valuable it is to have games that are fair but punish you. Quite rightly so. I think that's the biggest thing people mistake. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's controversial to Souls fans. I don't think Souls games are inherently hard. They're not hard. They don't hold your hand. It's very different. Punishing and like hard is different. Like, if you think about it, you can make a game hard but really unfair. Like, imagine if you had to play Age of Empires 4, but you couldn't use your keyboard. We're just making the game pointlessly hard, right? Well, let's imagine you don't have tooltips now before you have to figure it out yourself. It's making it inherently harder. But I'm then potentially punishing you for things that aren't logical or make sense to you. For example, why is this meditation garden worth less than 1 mana in Age of Empires 4? How was I supposed to know I should have bought the DLC? Anyway, other side, we have got Manta coming in. It's going to be a similar resource generation overall. Slight edge to B here with his landmark. Of course, going to get the 36 food, 25 gold, and then probably about close to 30 wood. Ooh, maybe less. So what's the game plan here? We can see that B is already prepping for the stables beginning. I wonder if he goes for racks instead. There are some matchups where you have to go racks. I don't think this is one of them. I believe both B and Beastie continue in the tourney. I mean, well, B and Beastie are already deep in the tourney. B's in the quarterfinals for EGC, and then Beastie's in the semis. So, yeah, you know. B already in feudal? Yeah, that's the Xushi way. Remember, the Civ techs up quicker on average than practically any Civ in the game because of how quickly they build, and also the fact that they get a 15% discount on age up. So, just a little reminder on Sunken Land, by the way. This is the map where you start with the baby veins and the 1600 gold. That's why both these picks are super high value on this map. Malians, of course, have gold gen infinitely, although having to build pit mines this tiny does break your heart a little. But for Xushi, same as China, it's all about that taxation gold, that supervision as well. It gives you a lot more runway than other civs normally get. I also think that Jean will inherently end up being a lot better on this map than French, similar to how I feel that way on Carmel. Because while having more villages can be good, as we've seen in plenty of games over the years, more isn't always better because it has a negative. It means you have to come out soon. I just looked in chat and saw Punish Me KP. This shows that my chat has matured and is a very grown-up group of people. Because most Twitch chats, that would have you would have had to replace KP with Daddy. Question is, who's going to be the daddy in this one? How did you guys gamble? 82% for Louis MT. That is a lofty skew that I was not expecting here. And we are going to have pro scouts coming in for Louis soon. In the meantime, B wants to pick up the goodies, but is forced to go into the racks. So Spearman now coming out will enable him to do so. But other side, did we get a deer shove at all? No. Louis MT, this is the tricky thing about playing Malians. When you go for pro scouts, you're inherently slower than civs like China and Xushi. It's not just because they're so fast. It's because your scouts cost more. You don't have any way of rushing this tech here. Your tech timing is going to be definitely slower than these faster building civs. Usually your goal is to play anti-pro scouts. He did attempt it, but just a great read by B on the time with spears. Is the China tax system APM / macro intensive? Not particularly. In most cases, you scale up to 4 Imperial officials and one of your taxmen runs around in circles doing it, while the others are attached to supervise certain roles. Where you get the most APM involved in taxation is 1, the initial setup, and then 2, unit transitions. So for example, right now he's supervising the racks to pump out spears, but now that he's bringing in the archery range, he'll likely want to move that guy over there to do Chuk Nu. So just very important to remember those details. I do sometimes wonder if it would have been better from a developmental standpoint if instead of having the eye on top of the unit when it supervises, they put the eye on top of the building. So it's apparent to both the player on the civ and the player against the civ what the taxmen are doing. Louis, it looks like what he's going to be doing is Sofa. Yeah, we've actually seen more and more Sofa play in the early ages. A little bit tricky into Xushi because Chuk Nu can just shred through Sofa quite quickly. You don't get as much armor as French Knights. That's very important because French Knights, Root Knights, etc., they would start at free base, which means they could reduce the Chuk damage down to its minimum, while Sofas take double the damage that a Knight would in the same situation while also having less health. It's a little bit tricky to justify these in the Xushi matchup. Curious to see if it actually pays off for him. Really, what you probably want here is the javelins. The spears are going to make it a bit problematic. B benefits a lot from these spears. Not only does it stop pro scouts returning, but it also allows him to play blocker to the housing. You are going to be able to scare this away, so spear damage is going to start being done. Louis MT. Was he trying to play wide? Yeah, he's trying to block the scout grab on the south from B. Nicely done. Whoa, okay, yeah, so I think that was intentional. Louis MT dragged the spears away, which means the warrior scouts won the fight here. A fight they otherwise would have lost. Able to get away before they lose their lives in the end. So Louis is just doing his Classico. Louis loves to play this way, where it's more flank-oriented, and he drags your attention left and right, dragging out the game to a deeper state. It's actually, I think, one of Louis' biggest upsides is when it looks like you've got him dead to rights, he forces you to react defensively. You might be wondering, well, if it's obvious I've got him dead to rights, why don't I just dive him? Honestly, easier said than done. Like, a lot of the time, you might feel that you're ahead, but positioning matters, and what Louis does really well is puts himself in a position where you feel more threatened. And B is trying to guarantee that doesn't happen, while also now blocking the pro scouts from coming back from the north. Nicely played. So that will secure this flank. That's going to be another 4 deer, 5 who wants to pick up this one. Louis' comm just really doesn't look like much right now. No, I guess he didn't want to go javelins because javelins feels bad against Xushi cavalry, considering Dali horses makes the horsemen really good at trading out there. And there was a lot of spears that needed to be answered, in fairness. My problem is, if you're answering with archers, Chuk Nu can just have their day in court, acquitted of all charges, and all of a sudden you're bankrupt, because archers will not win that trade out against Chuk. The stilled arrow timing now. So B ramping up pressure. The crazy thing, guys, is how does he have an army that much bigger while being just on the cusp of teching? That is ridiculous. Yeah, it feels like the only thing that's maybe missing is a little bit of additional taxation, but that's the problem with scaling Chuk. It does burn into your coffers. Yoinking the deer from right next to Louis' base now as well. Louis, who is going Fulani. Yeah, first ranch is in. I like this. I think Fulani makes sense. You just don't have a timing here. If you were looking for that timing, you would have started scaling javelins by now. You'd think that Mansa Musafadi could actually be pretty good against a lot of the Shushi's plays until you remember that Shushi has Chug. And Chug disintegrate Mansa Musafadi. Gold gathering back online. I think Louis knows what's happening now. It starts to feel a little bit dead obvious when you see this many people in gold. And whoa. Now you know what's happening. 16 workers on gold. Problem is, if Louis has to mirror tech up, he's not economically strong. He doesn't really have anything. He's got one ranch. Freeborn good against Jugs. Freeborn could be good. I think the problem I run into time and time again with Freeborn is it's a unit that's scary, but the real scare is if you overreact to it, if that makes sense. Freeborn is more, it needs to be countering something very clearly, or it's annoying more than anything else. I've watched players who go free TC ABBA get dove repetitively by Freeborn and still not die because the Freeborn just don't kill quick enough. And it's giving him Mountain Academy. Interesting. I guess the Sophist had him a little bit paranoid here. Possible that he's running out of food as well. And wants the extra efficiency there. What is going to be Fulani Corral? B's probably looking at just a rush timing into Monks. And that's the other thought here. Is that he can flood a few Lancers, scare off all the Sofas, and then rush out Monks every 12 seconds to answer. And oh, there are the Lancers. 3 stables worth. Tech up is on the way, but so far it's only 4 cows in total. The tricky part with this build for Louis is that he's not going to have immediate blow. It's going to be very gradual. The thought process, though, is that because you have Sofas already out in the fields, you can almost immediately go and attack your opponent. Issue I take with that is your opponent has built a sizable amount of spears, and by the time you complete your tech up, the Lancer count could easily just be the same as the Sofa count. Especially with that now coming in. Regional inspection is on the way. So this is the tech that increases the speed at which you produce units further with supervision. Because like Shushi economy is just so much better. It can be in these circumstances because the Fulani's not there. Once this gets set up though, he'll definitely be favored. The challenge is just getting them online now. Especially now that you teched up. If anything, B is going to be running towards your base looking to punish you in the middle of greed. That's why Louis giving a lot of space. He knows he needs to wait for this tech in particular. Imported armors. Really big deal. I'm trying to hold a front line here. Archery upgrade is going to be quick. Courtesy of just the Marleyan ways. Ranged armor 2 is coming in soon for B, though. And there's that Monk rush we talked about. So he has got it over here. Interesting. So instead of going for the supervision, he actually just went double monastery. Makes sense if he thinks he can get 5 relics. Like in theory, it's kind of more efficient than using the Imperial Official. Even though the Imperial Official would pump I want to keep saying scholars. The monks out in 6 seconds, I think it is. It's either 6 or 9 seconds. It's really quick. Does Louis realize what's happening? It might not be entirely apparent right now. There we go. He gets info. But I don't know if he expects two shrines. I mean, in fairness, like 2 temples doesn't seem that likely because you could just supervise. Either way, what you should be expecting is all relics to be gone by 16 minutes. So he's on the clock. He either reacts to the play himself with his own snatch towards relics, or he rushes out to protect them. Or he just feels like it doesn't matter and camps for the Fulani to be full. Choices you got to make, right? Because if you want to try and counterattack and block all relics, probably not rushing these ranches up. So do you want Shushi to have the gold and you get the food? Or would you rather neither has either? The classic, if I can't win, no one gets to win. Blows up the house. And I don't want to hear anyone having a moral high ground, because I guarantee you've all done something similar at some point in your gaming history. Someone can like, I've never done that KP, I'm innocent. And they'll find out in Call of Duty 4, you used to have the martyrdom ability where you drop a grenade. You piece it. Those are the worst ones. They genuinely the worst people of all. I'm sorry, but it's true. Louis, we've reached the walling phase. Surprised it took 15 minutes, actually. But for good reason. The Lancer spam's getting pretty strong here. He also has Dully horses. This is just not a fight Sofas can contest 1-to-1. And he doesn't have the numerical advantage. So it looks like B is going to make it a 5-relic grab. Goodies are on the way home. Unfortunately, the Sofa time is going to be a little bit too late from Louis. Okay, and this could set up beautifully for Pagoda play. Especially now that he's got this. The 4K gold in the front line would give him everything he needs and more. Bolt magazines is being rushed into, so some desired focus on additional Chug. And it's going to be a Lancer Juga nuke comp, which I would favor over Sofa archers here. Nice denial. Did actually intercept one of the relics. US and UK agreed a trade deal? Wow. This will probably not impact me in any meaningful way. Wait. How about they negotiate a trade deal with Twitch? They give us more sub revenue. Yeah, that would be the one. Mountain Academy, it was just the one. Single whip reform can be pretty nice once you have the farms online, just to rush around for attacks. I don't think you need it that much just yet. Does Louis feel like control slipping away? I think he already knew it was going to, which is why he started to wall. The issue is now it's just kind of a survival game until B runs out of food, which will happen. One of them is on Pro Scouts, the other one is on Fulani. He needs to be careful not to lose troopers, though. That type of fight is unacceptable. Sorry, let me do the proper... Unacceptable! Is that like the onion head person? Lancer's maybe a little bit overambitious, but Poison Arrow's not there, so should be able to minimize the casualties. Oh, sorry, Lemon, wasn't it? Yeah. Not the onion. The problem that you're going to have this idea your opponent runs out of food, there's still plays on the flanks, and B could wall that in. So you have to always be present with the Sofa, or you could just miss the window entirely. Lancers. Looks like B is seeing a window here. Window of opportunity to strike. You're going to start poking. Has got to pull the spears back. Lancer's looking to break in fast. We'll do exactly that. Louis can't really afford to give over much ground here. Not all the troopers yet from B. There are more Lancers being held in reserve. Only 2/3 of them here so far. The stagger retreat begins. The problem for Louis is this ranged exchange is bad for him. Substantially better for B. It's just the repeated crossbows, man. I mean, they just do so much damage. 21 against guarded units compared to 9 against unguarded units. Just doesn't make for a great trade. The thing he's trying to do right now is clear the speed so Sofas can actually engage. It's just taking so long. So you're going to rush in now. B could actually micro this to snipe the villagers and keep chasing. He's already at the ranches. And villagers are dropping like flies here. A 10 worker kill streak for B. And more to come. Practically no archers left alive. Louis MT, it seems like he can't hold on. B's found the perfect timing to break in and break the base. Sofas have to finally engage. For the Lancers, even if they're slightly outnumbered, just better quality. Chug now even assisting to guarantee they get the win. And there's just a long slew of troops making their way towards the Malian base. Chug still hunting for more worker kills, but even if this is all he gets, it should be good enough. The only worry is if he's absolutely out of food after this, how do you farm transition? But I don't think B's focusing on that right now. If he needs to, he can easily go on to flank resources like the berries, because now there's going to be nothing to raid him there. Like, truly nothing. There is one Sofa in existence. Was one Sofa in existence. And that's it. GG gets called. B with an insanely potent timing here on the Shu Shi, able to swat away that Malian nuisance.